team to come into my office, talk to all my people, use these sheriffs, like even when I beat the former assistant police chief of Phoenix, I was allowed to come in the day I took office. But I did this because I want the new administration get a heads up and be able to continue the job and protect the people. So, and I had nothing to hide. So that's why I did it.
Paul Penzone is working a couple of floors down from you right now?
Well, I don't know if he's there now. He has an office, but his staff...
but you've invited him in?
Yeah, his staff has been here for 30 days, talking to all my people, deciding who they want to keep and who they don't want to keep.
How much time have you spent speaking with Paul Penzone? How much have you guys talked
Well,
about
he came to see me for about 15 minutes.
How did that conversation go?
Well, it's okay, cordial. I'm not going to get into our conversations. I did make one statement. I'm very proud of my 24 years, longest serving sheriff in the history of Maricopa County. I'm proud of my people. I'm proud of our policies. This is a great organization. I'm not going to interfere with the new sheriff's office. They can do what they want. On the other hand, I do have a little pride, and if people start zeroing in on this sheriff, I'm just going to have to probably respond.
You're 84 years old. Is there any relief that you don't have to come to this office every day?
No. Why should there be?
You would have, obviously you wanted to win a 7th term, you didn't. But is there some relief that you don't have to fight the battle anymore?
I like fighting battles.
We're going to get to that.
And quite frankly, I can say it now. I was going to say it probably next week if I was still the sheriff, that I was going to sign up to run again, like I did in 2012, if you recall. The next day I went down and signed up that I'm running again, and I did.
You were going to run for an 8th term?
If I was elected, yes.
We put out a question on Facebook, how will you remember Sheriff Joe Arpaio? And I wanted to read you a couple of these. Florence said, I will remember him as the toughest sheriff in the whole USA. We need more just like him. Then criminals would think twice about going back to jail. Who wants to wear pink underwear and live in tents, especially during the summer? Hope you enjoy retirement, Sheriff Joe. You will be missed by many.
Thank you. It was Florence?
Florence.
Let me tell you something. John, you may not think it, but I think you do. I do have a heart, according to my doctor.
No, I know that.
And
Even your
I'm
detractors
human.
who meet you,
Yeah.
once they meet you,
Yeah.
many of them say, the guy's charming, he's a funny guy, he's a nice guy, he's got a good heart.
Well, I'm pretty proud of that, America's toughest sheriff. And by the way, I didn't give myself. It was the media and everybody else. I'll take it. I'd rather be America's toughest sheriff than America's meanest sheriff or America's nicest sheriff. I was never out to win a popularity contest and just go along with the programs. And when I ran many, many years ago, I made 3 promises. Put up Tent City, build up the posse, get tough on crime.
No, there was one more.
In the one that I...
You were only going to run for 1 term.
Okay, and I'm going to explain that, because I made a stupid mistake, okay? And I say it when I'm the sheriff. When I run for office, I say it every day. And I'll tell you my mistake. I said the sheriff should be appointed and not elected. Okay, well, if that's the case, then you're not going to run again if you want to be appointed. That was my big mistake.
Do you risk becoming just another career politician? Everything you ran against, everything you rail against, you say, I'm not a politician. And then you become a politician. This is a political job. You're elected. You're a politician by definition. So when you go for a 7th term, there will be some who say, you're no different than these other guys who run over and over and over, and it becomes about them.
Well, I just explained the mistake I made when I said appointed. It should be elected. I said that. I said it for 24 years. You should elect the top law enforcement officer. So yes, if you're running for office, I presume you're a politician. Now, I always joke. I say I'm probably the best politician in history because everybody thinks I'm not a politician.
Let me read what Jason Rose, the PR guru, said. He called you a PR genius, a freak of political nature.
Maybe you'll hire me.
Do you need a job? No. How about retirement? How about just...
I'm not retiring.
I know you don't play golf. You don't have any hobbies, really. Is there anything else you would want to do with your time than be kind of in the political world?
Yeah, I'm not retiring. I have some, some people interested. You think I'm going to retire and look at the fountain in Fountain Hills? No way.
Some people would love to have that free time.
That's them. I'm me. I've been a fighter, a worker my whole life. Why would I change now?
Let me read another one from our How Do You Remember Sheriff Joe? Chris says, as a guy who started out great, then deteriorated into believing that he himself was above the law, proof that power corrupts.
Well, I don't think the people, some of them don't know the true story. I always laugh because now they're saying, oh, he was a good sheriff to begin with. Now look what happened. Well, first of all, I did get reelected 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. If I'm so bad, the people still wanted me. Now this time around, there are certain forces against me.
George Soros.
Well, his $3 million, he spent it, I guess, in, 30 days? But it wasn't just that.
Do you remember that I called you the day of the election? We talked on the phone, and I wished you well, and I wanted to get a sense of where your head was at the day of the election. Do you remember that conversation?
Now, was that the primary where I won by 40%?
This was the general election, and you said, what do you think?
Yeah, but let me go back.
Okay.
I won the primary with 4 people by 40%, the Republican primary. That's pretty big.
Okay, so I call you on Election Day.
Yes.
To see kind of where you're at and how you're feeling about the race. And you said, what do you think? And I said, I think you got a tough road to hoe. I think it's going to be tough. And you said, but everybody I run into loves me, and they're going to vote for me.
That's true.
Were you shocked on election night when you lost?
No. I wasn't shocked. Come on, I've been the campaign manager, honorary manager for Bush and Romney, Rick Perry. So I've been in that high level, associating with people running for president, and I've seen the politics. So I wasn't shocked. I was somewhat disappointed because I still have many plans I had in mind the next 4 years, which I won't be able to accomplish.
There's an irony. All these guys you just mentioned were guys who came to Tent City, kissed the ring of the sheriff of Maricopa County, and lost. This time around, you probably gave more spring to Donald Trump than anybody early on. You may be the catalyst of his becoming the president. You started it in large measure, this immigration deal. But the guy who finally wins, who comes to see you and needs your endorsement, he wins, but you lose. How does that happen?
Well, I endorsed Bush. He won.
That's true. You did.
I endorsed Romney. He lost.
He lost.
So it's kind of 50-50, but the point is...
but Dole lost. All these other guys lost.
Dole, I don't think I endorsed. He visited. I had Dole visit the tents, and Phil Graham, the other Graham of Texas.
They all came. Like
Governor Wilson, McCain, and they all lost. I tried to get Hillary here this recent election to visit the tents. I didn't get her, but I got Sanders' wife, and he lost too.
Okay.
So
Let me read you one more of our How Do You Remember Sheriff Joe from our Facebook. Gustavo says, as the good sheriff who didn't know when to call it quits, he should have quit while he was ahead. As the biggest gangster to ever step foot in the sheriff's office, my respect. That's from Gustavo.
Oh, when he said gangster, I hope he's not talking about the mafia. He's calling me a gangster.
I think he's calling you a badass, for a better lack of a better word.
Okay, that's a compliment. What do you want him? You want me to say what a great guy you are?
What about that part where he said he didn't know when to call it quits? Have you thought about that? That maybe, like Jim Brown, Cleveland Browns, you leave when you're on top.
I don't know. I can go back to history. Boxers. Let's talk about the ball player, Jordan. You do know many people retire, but they came back for a last shot. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. They all do. Most
so,
of them.
So why? What's this guy trying to say?
He's trying
that I
to
should
say
have
he
left?
would have liked to have seen you quit when you were on top, which may be the sentiment of a lot of folks out there.
Well,
maybe you just stayed a little too long.
No, I don't think that was the reason. I think there was a lot of forces against me that just piled up. I did get about, 600,000 votes. Do you know, since I've been sheriff, how many votes I gathered? Do you know it's almost 6 million people have voted for this sheriff?
You figured.
Think of that. 6 million. This is just a county.
So talking about through the years.
Yeah. So evidently someone around here likes me. And I'm going to tell you one other thing while we're on that subject.
Okay.
When I said I have a heart, I'll tell you what's sad. I get calls from across the nation. I have people crying. Mm-hmm. That tugs at my heart. Everywhere I go, since I lost that election, people come up to me. I don't even know, saying we voted for you. Sometimes I wonder, everybody voted for me. How come I didn't win? But that makes you feel good.
Is that what kept you going all these years?
Well, I have a strange philosophy, and it goes back when you try to say that I'm not a politician. I am a politician.
No,
you
I
have
said
to
you're
be.
A politician. I've always said you're a politician.
But I report to the people. 4 million.
I had one more I wanted to run by you. Mary says, I will remember how polite he is and that he always smelled handsome. He is quite lovely. That's from Mary. This is not made up. These are.
Well, I don't know about Mary. I don't want to insult her. I mean, I could say you better get a new pair of glasses. But John, I'm not like you. I am not tall, dark, and handsome. Okay.
I'm not either.
Huh? So, I don't know. Maybe looks don't mean everything. It's the inner self or the way you present yourself.
This is the thing. I've got to say this. I've said this to other people, and I might as well tell you. The guy that I know when the camera is off is a different guy than when the camera is on. There's this sweet guy, Joe Arpaio. And I've always said, Joe Arpaio isn't the sheriff. He is Joe Arpaio playing John Wayne, playing the sheriff.
First of all, I'm from Massachusetts, and the only John Waynes and Tom Mix and all I knew were from the black and white movies. But I don't want to talk about you, but since you brought it up about me, I'm different on the job than in person. Journalists are too.
Sure. You
have a heart too. You're different on the TV than I talk to you. So in certain professions, you are different. But I'm really not that different in a sense. I say things that I would say anyway. Mm-hmm. I never read a speech. So I am me, but I may act a little tougher when I'm speaking on my programs.
Let me ask you about a couple of things you did in your tenure. It kind of started with pink underwear, didn't it?
Not really. That came about 4 years after.
You did it because the inmates were stealing your underwear. So you thought if I make it pink, they won't steal it. And it actually made it even more of a novelty item. Then they really wanted it.
Well, when you sell millions of pairs of pink underwear, I don't. The posse does. I just sign it because the sales go up when the sheriff signs it. So, but why don't we talk where the money goes? The money goes to the Youth Assistance Foundation. All that money takes care of the poor kids.
So there's a method to do that.
I'm going to tell you, anybody, they can blame me. I know one newspaper here, they make fun of my programs. There isn't a program that I can't give you a rationale, a logical rationale of why we do it.
Tent city.
Yeah.
Is there really any need for tent city?
Of course there is. When I ran, I said I'm going to put up tents in the desert, Korean War tents. I did it August 2, 1993.
Right.
We had a little jail overcrowding problem. But that's not the reason. They're all convicted. Even if people complain that we have enough room somewhere else, what's wrong with having a tent city to send a message out, tough love or whatever? Even that would be worth it.
Chain gangs.
Yes.
Is it necessary?
Of course. Want the rationale for that?
Sure.
I started the male chain gang about 14 years ago. I'm an equal opportunity incarcerator, so I put the women on a chain gang. I'm pretty proud of the fact there's never been a female chain gang hooked together in the history.
I've been told that the guys who are out there guarding them, that they don't have live rounds in their guns. That's for show. They're out there with the chain gang, but they don't have live rounds because
I haven't heard that.
Low grade people who are on the chain gang, and that there would be no justification to open fire on them, so that these arms out there are not loaded.
Are we saying that people escape from jails have to be murderers? Escape is an escape.
No,
it's a serious
offense.
offense.
Use lethal force on them.
I'm sure that if it came to that, yes. But they're hooked together. So how are they going to escape? They're all going to escape together? That's the reason you hook them together, so you don't have to worry about the escape.
My point was that it's kind of a show.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. Do you think that I put the chain gang in the desert to chop rocks? I can put them right in front of your Channel 10 or the governor's office. I don't hide the chain gang. I have them right on Scottsdale Road.
Right,
Why do I do that? Because when the parent in their Cadillac and Johnny's in the back seat, I hope the parents say, you do something wrong, Johnny, you're going to be on that chain gang. Everybody's going to see you in your black and white stripes. Don't you ever violate the law. And I hope Johnny never forgets that image.
Fair enough. One of the best things I think you did, the mall posse. You had people ripping people off in the parking lot during the Christmas holidays, and you started the mall posse.
And I finished it 2 days ago, did a press release. Nobody prints it, of course, because it's a nice program. I started that in 1993 because there was the year before, a lot of hijackings and violence at the malls. So when I took office, mobilized the posse, and here we are a few days ago, another successful operation.
Are there any things that you've told Paul Penzone, Paul, please keep this, it's a good idea?
No.
You're leaving it up to him?
Yes.
You've had people die in your jails. I've brought it up before. Scott Norberg died in a restraint chair in 1996. Charles Agster, similar fate in 2001. $17 million awarded to those two combined. How do you, when you look back on your tenure, those things have to personally bother you?
You don't like anyone to die. But how, it's really amazing. Norberg was like 15 years ago, and they still bring it up.
But it's still a life.
What, do you talk about other people that died or were shot, where cops are shot and everything else? Do you talk about them, about a cop that was shot 15 years ago and killed? No, you always bring up one case, and when you have 2.5 million people come through the jails that I run, think of that. We have received national awards, whether anybody wants to believe it, how we run our jail system. So naturally, when you have people in jail, and unfortunately many of them are not in the best health, and we're not even in charge of the medical in the jails. Now let me get that clear.
Okay.
That doesn't come under me. The health and the medical, the doctors and nurses, doesn't come, it comes strictly under the county. I'm not trying to blame the county, but every time someone dies, it's the sheriff's fault.
But the money involved, that did become an issue, I think, with voters over time. Since you took office in '93, the total is $142 million that you've cost taxpayers. It's averaged more than $6 million in lawsuits and legal expenses for every year you've been in office. Now, I know you say that's a cost of doing business, but would you agree that some voters, even Republicans, fiscal conservatives who would have supported you in the past, got to a point where they thought, you know what, I like him, but he's costing us too much money?
Well, the message is you can't get the word out. You want to take 24 years, divide that with 130, if that's the real figure. If that's the real figure, because money of that comes under the health, okay? And much of that people, the county agrees to settle, because when we do go to court, we got a high record of winning those lawsuits, okay? But divide that. You go any police department and see what they pay in 24 years, and they don't even run jails. So why doesn't people do their homework? And the media, of course, always builds this up, the $130 million, and the public doesn't understand. So that's the frustration sometimes I have had through my 24 years, is trying to get the right story out.
Tell me about how illegal immigration came onto your radar. Really right around 2005, 2006. And there was a seminal moment that happened in the desert on I-8 involving this Army reservist named Patrick Habb. He stopped 5 men who he believed were illegal immigrants, and he held them at gunpoint out in the desert. You said, can't do that. He needs to be charged. You arrested him and charged him. Right? Well, you don't charge. But you took him into custody. Andrew Thomas, the county attorney at the time, said, I'm dropping the charges on this guy. These guys were here illegally. He's fair game. You were a champion to many people in the Latino community for a short time after that happened. I think you even got awards from the Latino community.
That happened.
For that act.
That happened timing before the state laws were passed. Human smuggling laws, employer sanction. We had
pushed for those.
We had no state laws. That happened prior to. Okay? So you can't say I should have done something when there was no laws on the book. So
why did it become an issue for you?
Because I happen to be a law enforcement official, and I like to say I enforce all the laws, and I think my record shows that. They may be controversial sometimes. And in 2007, I had 150 of my officers trained and sworn in by federal ICE. Right. And we had the authority to act as immigration officers.
287G.
Until they took that away. I think Napolitano took that away.
Why did it become such a focus for you? I have a theory. I'm going to run it by you. I think it was because we ran on the news every night stories about people here illegally committing crimes. Hit and runs. People committing crimes, and you find out they're here illegally. And I think you were paying close attention to this. Am I right?
Not really. It wasn't for politics like people say. If I was such a great politician, there are certain things I would not have done. I'm not stupid. I've been around 55 years. Much of that as a top federal law enforcement official.
I have another theory about this, that you had pretty much done as much as you could do to your inmates. You'd taken away everything. Coffee, porn magazines, took away their television, made them watch educational programs. You had pretty much, and you fed them Nutriloaf. You had taken away everything you could pretty much do. There was nothing left to do to punish your folks in jails.
How come I just 6 months or a year ago took away their meat?
I know.
They're vegetarian. Why? You don't think
you can nibble around the edges, but you'd pretty much done everything you could do.
Well, I think taking away their meat is a big program. You say nibbling. Maybe that's more important than taking away TV.
I guess my point is, did you trade kind of demonizing inmates to demonizing immigrants?
No way. No way. In fact, you've been through the tents or the jails. I'd let everybody through. Mm-hmm. Now, am I that stupid that I would let the whole world, Amnesty International, you name it, come to my tents and talk to the inmates and say whatever they want to say?
Right.
Am I that stupid?
No, you are very open with your policy.
But I think I have a little common sense too. If I had a guy there and you're whipping him with a whip, I don't think I would let the world come in and take pictures of that.
No, and they would pull us aside.
If I did it, I don't do that.
They'd pull us aside and they'd say, this place is brutal.
Who?
Inmates. They hated it.
Come on.
Tent City, they hated it.
Thank you.
But that's deterrent. That's what that's what you wanted.
And I'll tell you what, I could pick up 50% of the vote if they could vote. You know that?
Oh, we've had stories on it. Guys who came out of there and said, I never want to go back to that place again.
And my people probably are responsible for saving thousands and thousands and thousands of lives with those tents and how they have to live in a certain environment.
How did you come up with these ideas?
Well, I like to say I don't sleep at night. It's not nightmares that I have to come up with them. I'll tell you what, John, I don't have all these master, doctorate degrees, all this. You know what I got? You know what I really have?
Common sense.
Other than I don't have the good looks, forget how certain people. Yeah, okay. Another thing, life experience and common sense. That's it. That's what I have.
You'd come up with these ideas at night, sitting in bed, laying in bed?
Well, I joke, but I do sometimes. Why not? And then I listen to my staff. I have great staff. I stayed with the organization. I had the first female chief deputy in the history of the sheriff's. I can go on the personnel, but I run it by my staff. Sometimes, once in a while, I say I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it, because I evaluate what my staff said. But when I do it, I don't back down.
What's the craziest idea that ever came across your desk that you said, no, I'm not doing that?
You know, I don't really recall, quite frankly. I guess normally I do it. But I don't know. I really can't think of the craziest thing.
You seem to relish, and you mentioned it at the top of the interview, you like battles. You're a fighter, right?
I've been fighting my whole life. From the day I was born, my mother gave birth to me and died. So I kind of bounced around from one Italian family. So I've been fighting. I joined the Army with the Korean War. I've been a cop in D.C., Vegas, DEA all over the world, sheriff. I'm just a worker. I have a great wife. We just celebrated last week.
How's she doing, by the way? How's Ava doing?
Ava's doing better. And we just celebrated. We're going on 60 years of marriage. And I have to give her much credit for my success in my life.
She's a remarkable woman.
Putting up with me. But
you're different at home, though. You're a different guy at home.
Well, I'm sure not trying to lock my wife up, so that's a personal life you lead.
But she's doing better, and I think some people, even voters, thought, his wife is battling cancer. Why does he need this job right now at 84? Why did he need to run again? He should spend time with his wife.
Well, that's a good point. My wife agreed to go forward.
Did she ever tell you, don't do this anymore? You don't need it.
And that's exactly where I'm going with this, why she deserves much of the credit. My wife has never, going on 60 years of marriage, following me to Turkey, Mexico, has ever said, how come you're never home? All you think is your job. You don't think of me. You work all the time. Never has she ever said that gave me the freedom of working for the people of this county 14 hours a day.
Did you ever in that time take a vacation? A honest-to-goodness vacation? A week or two somewhere?
No.
Why?
Why? I mean, I know a little bit.
People, you know, they want time to do their own thing.
Well, I wanted to hang around here and defend this organization, and I don't like to be gone a week or 2 weeks. Once in a while I'll go and give a speech, but I do that normally on a weekend. So I like to hang around and see what's going on.
You brought it up. Your mother died giving birth to you. What effect did that have on you in terms of needing love from the community, from others, adoration, pardon me,
Nothing.
affirmation?
Nothing. There's no connection there. I don't. Actually, I never brought up my mother till recently. I figure when you get to be my age, maybe.
You don't think that had an effect on you?
No. I lived. My father came here from Italy, opened up business. I worked hard in that. No, had none. I played all the sports. Okay, all the gals wanted a date and all that, which I didn't do because I was too busy studying to get a C average. And no, that doesn't affect me. Even to this day, it doesn't affect me. The only way it affects me, I like the people that like me, so I can continue working for them and be rehired.
Are you crushed that you lost this race?
No, I'm not crushed. I'm a little disappointed, quite frankly, because I had, and then I'm leaving a good organization that's been with me from day one. So, you know, I am the longest sheriff.
Right.
So most of the people here, I would say 90%, have never known another sheriff.
We talked about the fighter in you. You took on county officials, Mary Rose Wilcox, Don Stapley, Sandra Dowling. People were arrested. They sued you later. Why did you get in all these fights with all these people?
Well, I think when information comes to you, being an elected constitutional sheriff, that maybe you should take on some fights that nobody else will because of politics or whatever. And I don't do it alone. I work with a county attorney at that time. I have my own opinion about that case. I'm not going to talk about it, but we did have information. And
which one are we speaking of?
The ones you mentioned. And once again, of course, the county doles out all the money.
Yeah,
Every time you get sued. Geez, all I have to do as a private citizen now is sue the county, and we'll settle for. I'm kind of joking on that, but that's what happened.
Do you look back and say, I picked some fights I probably shouldn't have bothered with?
No, I don't look back.
You're very much like Donald Trump in that way. I asked him the same question during the campaign. Do you regret anything you did during the campaign? He said you can't look back and have regret. Sure, there's some things I would have done differently, but he said you've got to move forward.
Well, I think I didn't see it, but there's another famous show on a different channel, which interviewed me, by the way. The guy died, Maury Safer, on 60 Minutes.
Yes.
And I'll never forget what he said about me. And he said, "Sheriff, are you running for governor?" I said, "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are." "No, I'm not." And then he says, like they all say, "You're a publicity hound." And then I said, "You called me. I didn't call you." So when I respond to thousands of interviews, I'm the publicity hound, and they're calling me.
By the way, these runs for governor through the years, it became a running joke between the two of us. Because every time you'd announce, I'd say, you don't want that job. Or you'd say, "I'm thinking about it." You wouldn't announce. You never would announce. You just said, "I'm thinking about it." And I thought, this guy keeps playing this card. He is never going to run for governor because, as you said, given your situation, that would have been a demotion.
Yeah, well, and I could have won, but you were right. You had
Why
me.
did you keep
tricked
doing
me.
it?
Because people wanted me to run. You think I didn't think about it? I didn't do it just to get my name out there.
You really seriously thought about it?
Yeah. But then I said, I'm going to stay sheriff. What politician, tell me one, is happy where they're at and won't go higher up, although I don't know from sheriff to governor is a promotion. Who does that? Anybody in my position as sheriff would not have run for governor knowing that they could get elected. So the question is, why? How come I never did it?
I understand that you can't talk about your current situation. The judge asked you in 2011 to stop enforcing immigration. You kept going for 17 months. Why?
I'm not going to talk about it. Wait a minute. I don't know where you get your information. I presume your reporter is in the hallway.
No, I do my own research. You went on and you kept going for 17 months.
Well, since you do your own research, we just filed an appeal to the Ninth Circuit. Why don't you research that appeal? Why isn't Channel 10 talking about everything in that?
We've reported.
No, you didn't. No, you left out certain elements in there.
Well, we've only got 30 minutes.
But you should have picked out some other elements in that appeal that we just filed a couple of days ago. Why don't you do that?
Well, tell me.
No, I'm not going to tell you.
Why not?
No. Read the appeal or talk to my lawyer. And
it just strikes me that you were told to stop and you kept going. You could have prevented all of this. It would have been very easy. When the judge says, "You know what? You got to stop. You can't do this."
That was one judge. I'm not going to criticize that judge or the case, but let the appeal process take its place. Now, one thing that did bother me, and I'm not going to once again get into it, although it's public knowledge.
What is the reason you can't get into it? You don't want to tick off the judge, or what is it?
Well, let me tell you.
Because I know you want to tell me the whole thing.
But I've been a federal guy. You don't look at my resume. Top federal law enforcement official for many different areas. Okay, proud of that. I know the federal system. I worked in Washington 3 times. So I have enough sense when to keep my mouth shut as of now. Now, I will say one thing that sort of bugged me is when he pushed that over to a criminal misdemeanor contempt of court.
Right before the election.
And then you have the Department of Justice, who, by the way, Holder and Obama started the investigation 100 days after they took office, and it's still part of this.
But you were also investigated by George W. Bush's Department of Justice. So
no, no, let me get that straight. Once again, you're wrong. You have a certain mayor and a certain board of supervisors went to Washington to file a complaint. That was when Bush was almost ready to leave office. There was no investigation. It's a complaint. You think every complaint they file? It was Obama. When Holder came from a certain law firm, I'm not going to get into that, to be Attorney General. And his chief deputy came from that law firm. And that's when they opened the investigation. It wasn't open under Bush.
No, I think that there are many people out there who would say Obama and that Justice Department was indeed out to get you. I think a lot of people would think
because of the immigration that
Yes.
started.
Yes.
That was the whole foundation. Now we have other reasons he doesn't like me. I probably
birth
won't get.
certificate.
Oh, you had to bring that up?
You knew I was going to bring that up.
What about it?
Why did you become so focused like a laser beam on this birth certificate issue? I mean, we talked about this before. If one parent is a U.S. citizen, his mother, there's no disputing this. His mother was born in Kansas. She's a Kansan. She's an American. If one of the parents is an American, the child is good to go.
Why are we talking about that?
Well,
Because, no, wait a minute.
Tell me, why are we talking
No,
about
hold
this?
on a minute, John, please. Please. I started this, first of all, 250 people, my constituents, who are my bosses, came to me and asked me, Sheriff, you're our last hope. Can you open up the investigation on a false government document? The name happened to be Obama. Okay? If it was you, it'd be the same, except you would be in jail.
But why spend time on it and even your posse money on it if the end result is it doesn't change anything? He's still going to be the president.
It has nothing to do with the president. It's a forged government document, a fraudulent document that somebody should be investigating. Someone should be investigating that government fraud. How come nobody is? Now, it didn't cost any money because, or time. I was smart enough, I think, to not even use taxpayers' money. Let the posse do it. They're free. It doesn't cost any money. Although, even if it did, what's wrong with investigating?
So you believe that document is forged? No doubt in your mind.
We just proved it. Okay? Again. That is a fraudulent document.
What would have been the point of a fraudulent document?
The point is they violated a law. You can't have a fraudulent and mess around with a government document. Nobody can do that.
And you think they did this why?
Good question. A little sensitive information still floating around that I'm not going to talk about. But we proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the media will not cover. Again, probably the biggest cover-up in history, and the media is involved in it. So we proved it again. My home country of Italy, experts, another expert in Hawaii, separately did their analysis and proved.
What would have been the motive, though, of doing this? If the document is forged or doctored in some way, is it to prevent President Obama from some declaration on that document that he is Muslim?
I have no.
What would have been the motive?
The motive could have been he doesn't have a birth certificate. Because on day one, 5 years ago, when I started this, I went public, showed me the microfiche, showed me the birth certificate. I'm going home. I started this to clear the president. Think of that. I wanted to clear the president. I'm serious. Clear the president.
I don't know if people will believe that.
Well, I'm telling you. But it didn't work that way.
You did this to do him a favor?
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody's going to believe that.
Why?
Because
When you get it,
you and Obama have been at loggerheads from the beginning.
no. When you get an allegation, I think you could do a good job to try to clear the person. That's how you really become aggressive.
So that was a fight worth having, in your view?
Well, I think it was a fight. It didn't take up much resources.
Clear one thing up for me. There's speculation that you did it to actually provide cover for you in all of this Justice Department stuff. That by going after Obama's birth certificate, you thought that it might actually protect you from legal action, that it would inoculate you, because if they came after you, people
really?
would say, well, it's a vendetta. They're coming after Arpaio because they're angry at him.
Yeah, it really makes sense because no politician wanted to go near me. Even the public was against me. So if I'm supposed to be a politician, why would I take something on that really is not in favor of this sheriff?
You said the public really demanded you. They wanted you to do it. You were their last hope.
I said 250. We got 330 million people. Why is it that no politician would even touch this? Why? A fake, forged government document.
I think because most people thought in the end it won't matter.
Okay, anybody out there, go forge a government document. Don't worry about it. Okay, all you people, go do it. And nobody's going to bother with you. I don't understand the rationale.
Can you clear something up that, this idea that you're a racist, and I know that really gets under your skin.
Not really, because when they can't get you on anything else, they throw the race card. And you know what? Let them say what they want. It's kind of disgusting. I mean, I can bring up what they used to call me, and some still do. Italian, bad words, but nobody cares.
My mom was raised in an Italian neighborhood. I've heard all these words you're talking about.
Why doesn't anybody do anything? Because it's Italian? So, but you know what? I'm not going to get into my personal life, except I have grandkids of all different races, okay? I'll tell you that. Now that I'm leaving. Now that I'm leaving.
Right.
Come on. I can go on and on. I was a regional director in Mexico. The Mexicans loved this sheriff in Mexico, Turkey, the middle. I can go anywhere. But if they want to call me that, a certain group, no matter what I do with that certain group, what I do, they will always be against me. But deep down, I think they really don't hate this sheriff. They're using this sheriff as a trophy to send a message. I really do, because I don't think, all these demonstrations, I used to go with them, they give me the finger and everything else, but I don't think, so let's say it's kind of a political situation that's occurring.
Would you like to say anything to the Latino community that you feel you've been mischaracterized, misunderstood, that you would like to directly say to folks?
No, I said...
Given all this fervor over illegal immigration, that you were really a major part of.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say this, which I said my last election when I gave my talk, 2012. I said one thing I failed was able to get the message out to the certain Hispanic groups or the Hispanic people. I started an outreach program trying to get closer to the Hispanic community, but it just didn't materialize the way I would have liked. I had Al Sharpton led 10,000 people against me, and then I invited him up here. I didn't know if I could invite him to a bar room, but I had a long talk with him. I had dreamers come from Florida all the way here to see me in my office. They were here illegally.
I remember.
And I had a couple hugging me when they left. But I wasn't able to get my message out. Very difficult with all the hype and laws.
So personally, from the heart, you understand why people break the law to come to this country for a better life.
Yeah.
You understand.
Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do.
And you empathize with them.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing. They keep saying I break up families. You've heard that a million times.
Yes.
Why don't they feel sorry for all those 8,000 people in my jails that they're away from their families? Why don't they feel sorry from those people that are in jail? Their families. Why is it always the Hispanic family? You ought to feel sorry for all the families that are separated from their families.
Sheriff, how do you want to be remembered? This is 24 years, longest serving sheriff. How do you want to be remembered for what you accomplished in this office? How do you want the public to remember you?
That's a tough one. I always said the day I'm leaving, you won't talk to me.
I've got it right here. You've told me many times, when I'm out of office, you'll forget about me the next day.
Yeah.
I know how this works.
Exactly.
You've told me that time and time again.
And there's a reason for doing that. It's telling you that. I don't care. I did what I felt was right. And if people forget me after, that's okay. I can look in the mirror on my tombstone. My favorite song.
My Way.
is my way. And when you mentioned Donald Trump, that other station, I lost track. I wanted to tell you about his regrets.
Right.
He quoted, and I'm going to quote it right to you now. And you can put that on my tombstone. Not that I did it my way. How about regrets? I've had a few, but too few to mention. That's what Donald Trump said. That's what I say. The Donald Trump situation is a tough one with me, which you didn't ask me about. Well, probably won't even get into. Are you asking me now?
Sure. Is there a place for you with Donald Trump somewhere? You helped him a great deal, not only in Arizona, but across the country.
This is tough.
And I recall the standing ovation you got at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland.
On the fourth day.
Yes.
When they wanted me in court that same day. Here's the problem. And I brought this up purposely before, knowing that you probably were going to ask me something like this about being the campaign guy for Bush and Romney, Rick Perry. I'm not going to criticize them. And I was the campaign guy for the Governor Ducey, if you recall that. So I've had a lot of people want my endorsement. And you never see me ask for endorsements. You ever see anybody endorse me? I don't want it. Now, but there is one endorsement right now that happened in this election. I was a street cop for 4 years in D.C. with the nightstick, blackjack. I got a lot of assaults. It was a black beat. So my whole life, from that day, walking that beat, I go way, all the way on the top, come right back, my last days as the sheriff. So the endorsement that I got, I didn't turn it down because the cops, the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association, Arizona Police Association, the Deputy Association, I can go on and on. The U.S. Border Patrol, these are cops. I'd rather have their endorsement than any governor or anybody else. So I was very proud of all my years turning down endorsements. I have their endorsements because when I leave office, one thing I'm going to do is try to stop this war on cops. And Donald Trump, I've had a lot of conversations with him, not really a lot, but to get back to him, this is amazing. And the reason I brought up all these other guys that I campaigned for in Massachusetts and all, not once has Donald Trump or his staff tried to influence me, try to say, don't say this, or say this, not once.
What does it tell you about Donald Trump?
Well, it tells me that he doesn't like to control people. He lets them talk and not try to
manage the message
or influence. Mm-hmm. Now, fortunately, sometimes I wonder, I don't know what he's going to say, but fortunately, he and I have traveled the same road together, not knowing, who the passengers were. Now, I took a detour. Actually, I call my leaving office just a detour. Okay? So, but the thing that got me with him, and I think I mentioned it on the National Convention 2 hours before he talked, and I believe you were there. But what got me with him, and it's going to be very difficult, if he ever calls, I'm not going to get into whether I have conversations. I don't play that game. I know Donald Trump. You never hear me say that. To get a job, I'm not applying for any job. But what happens if he calls and he says, I need you? Now, I know every politician or everybody that wants a job, oh, the President of the United States just called. I can't turn down the President of the United States. He needs me. You know, you heard that,
Sure.
right?
Everybody.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not going to do it.
No. Wait a minute. The problem I have is him as a person.
You can't say no to him.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, but it will be a very difficult because of him.
Mm-hmm. You like him a great
I respect the president. I hope you don't get me wrong, of the United States. I served my country for 55 years. But what happens if he calls? Okay. Like I already, someone already said he called one time. I said, I'll listen to him. And because of who he is.
Is there anything, as we wrap up here, and you've been very generous with your time, and I have to say personally, you have always been accessible, always answered the questions. You never dodged me. You never ducked me. And I appreciate that.
I got diarrhea of the mouth sometimes. That's all right.
I mean, there's nothing more you can ask as a journalist than that the person will talk to you and tell you what's going on.
The media, to me, is a love-hate relationship. I think the hate was out there more this time around. But that's okay. That's their job. So why would I not talk to the media? Okay? I'm a publicity hound? No. I want everybody in this county, this country, and this world to know who the sheriff is so they will obey the law when they come here.
Is there anything, as we part here, that you would like to tell folks about you or your time here that you have not had a chance to tell them?
Well, I have to say that I ran for a sheriff when I was young.
You were 60 when you...
To me, that's young. I'm now, 84, going on 85. Donald Trump and I were born on the same day, you know.
That I didn't know.
Flag Day.
Did not know that.
June 14. Not the same year.
I didn't think about it. Yeah.
He's got me by 11 years.
He just turned
70.
He just turned 70, right?
Okay, he's still young. I predicted July when he was here. 2015, he will be the next president. And I'm going to make another prediction. He will be one of the best presidents this country has ever seen. So don't go around saying I'm crazy when I predicted he would be the president when nobody would stand next to him. That's my prediction with him, if people will give him a chance. So I'm not going to ever forget what he did to my wife.
He would call just to check how she was doing.
6 times.
6
when he found
out
out that she had cancer. I don't forget that. I said that in a national convention. They prepared a speech. I said, throw that speech out. Well, you only got 5 minutes on the teleprompter, the expert says. 5 minutes? I said, that's only 3. Because the other 2 minutes, they'll be cheering for me. So you're going to give me 3 minutes? This sheriff? 3 minutes to talk about? So I did use the 3 minutes to talk about my wife. Because he was taking all the heat. And the other thing, he loves cops, veterans, military. I'm all 3 of those things. So I had some personal reasons why I like the guy, too.
Anything you want to say as we wrap up here?
Well, it was a great, great pleasure of serving the, now it's $4.5 million. When I started, I was $1.8 million, I believe, serving the people. I'm not going to say that I let the people down, and I did in a way, but I'm not going to, but I hope I don't tell myself that I let the people down by not being reelected. Because I did my job, 24 years, proud of it, proud of my organization. You're only as good as the people that work for you. I stuck with this organization all the way through what we had in this office. So if there's any successes, you have to give it to the employees, because I can set the policy, but you need employees to carry it out.
What would you tell Paul Penzone? What advice would you give him?
Well, I'm not going to tell him anything because I feel that this is going to be his organization. If he wants to talk to me, I'm always willing to talk, but we'll see what happens. So I think I leave a legacy. I hate the word legacy, but I think I leave a legacy to put this office on a map around the world. Nobody knew the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. They sure know this office everywhere in the world. They know who this sheriff is. So I'm going out into the sunset. I don't ride a horse, so I guess I got to get on my helicopter. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm not disappearing. I'll be around, one way or the other. I'm not going to let those 6 million people that voted for me in my career to forget.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.